Have you ever walked through a market and seen something so strange, so out of place, that it made you stop in your tracks? Now, imagine wandering the bustling streets of Egypt in 1865, the air thick with the scent of spices and dust, merchants shouting over one another, selling everything from silk to exotic animals. But then, among the usual goods, you see something that chills your spine: mummies. Real, ancient Egyptian mummies, their bandages yellowed with time, their bodies once belonging to people who lived thousands of years ago, now being sold openly like mere trinkets. Yes, this actually happened. In the 19th century, mummies were not just archaeological treasures. They were commodities, traded, dissected, and even ground into powder. This is one of the strangest and most unsettling stories of history, one where the line between curiosity and desecration was completely blurred. And as we uncover this bizarre trade, ask yourself, what do we consider valuable today that might seem unthinkable to future generations? Stick around, because this story is unlike anything you've heard before. And before we continue, make sure to subscribe to the channel. You won't want to miss more deep dives into the strangest moments in history. Also, drop a comment below. If you were in Egypt in 1865, would you have stopped to look, or would you have walked away? Egypt in the 1800s was a land of wonder and mystery. For centuries, its vast tombs and pyramids remained sealed, their secrets locked away. But with the rise of European explorers and collectors, the world became obsessed with uncovering, and owning, pieces of Egypt's past. Mummies, once sacred, were suddenly in high demand. Tourists wanted souvenirs, and local vendors were more than happy to provide. Imagine walking down a crowded alleyway in Cairo or Luxor and seeing a merchant casually holding up an arm wrapped in ancient linen, offering to sell it for a few coins. Some vendors even unwrapped entire mummies on the spot, revealing skeletal remains that had not seen the light of day for thousands of years. But it gets even stranger. These mummies weren't just sold to collectors. They were turned into medicine. In Europe, a bizarre belief had taken hold that ground-up mummy powder, called mumia, had healing properties. People actually ingested the remains of the ancient dead, believing they could cure anything from headaches to internal bleeding. For centuries, this trade flourished, with apothecaries across Europe selling jars of crushed mummy, unaware, or perhaps unconcerned, that they were consuming the remains of people who had once walked the earth, had families, had lives. And then there was the paint. Yes, you heard that right. Artists in the 19th century used a pigment called mummy brown, which was literally made from ground-up mummies. Imagine painting a masterpiece, never knowing that the color on your brush came from a person who lived thousands of years before you. This was not a rare occurrence. Entire mummies were sacrificed for art. But perhaps the most disturbing part of this trade was the mummy unwrapping parties. In Victorian England, wealthy elites would gather in grand halls to witness the dramatic unveiling of ancient remains. A freshly imported mummy would be placed on a table, and before an audience of nobles, scientists, and thrill-seekers, the bandages would be carefully unwound, revealing the long-preserved face beneath. Some did this out of scientific curiosity, others for sheer entertainment. It was a spectacle, a macabre form of amusement that disregarded the deep cultural and spiritual significance these remains once held. The Egyptian government, realizing the scale of destruction, eventually cracked down on this trade. Laws were passed to protect antiquities, and over time, attitudes shifted. Today, mummies are preserved and studied with the respect they deserve, but it's sobering to think how close we came to losing countless historical treasures forever. This raises a question: how do we decide what is valuable and what is disposable? In the 19th century, mummies were treated like curiosities, but today, they are protected artifacts. What are we destroying or taking for granted today that future generations might look back on with shock? Let us know in the comments. What do you think about this bizarre trade? Would you have been tempted to buy a piece of ancient history, or would you have walked away in horror? If you enjoyed this deep dive into a truly strange moment in history, make sure to subscribe for more stories that uncover the hidden and often shocking sides of our past. And don't forget to like this video, it helps more people discover these fascinating tales.